You're listening to the Waypoint TV Podcast Network, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Hey, it's Chuck with the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, and I just came from my local Academy Sports and Outdoors store. Rifle season is finally here. An Academy Sports and Outdoors store has everything to gear up for the field for less. Don't miss our Savage event, where you can score up to $100 off select Savage rifles for a limited time. Plus, shop a wide selection of rifles, ammo, deer stands, game cameras, optics, and camo hunting apparel from the brands you trust. Swing by your local Academy store today, or shop academy.com, where we have thousands of firearms with free ship to store. Need a hunting license? Pick it up in store while you're shopping. Well, we'll see you soon at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Hey everyone, this is Captain Steve Roger from Into the Blue TV. And as soon as I feel a little break from this heat, I know that hunting season is upon us. Actually, the first time I ever went hunting, a buddy took me. Wasn't my father or my grandfather. In fact, I took my father on his very first hunt. Well, Academy Sports and Outdoor Stores has everything to gear up for the field for less. Plus, you can shop a wide selection of ammo, shotguns, deer corn, rifle, feeder, game cameras, camo, and more from the brands you trust. Text HUNT24 to 22369 to take $20 off a $100 purchase when you shop hunting supplies at academy.com. Need a hunting license? Pick it up in store while you're shopping.
All right, so we're here and we're talking to Rick Spicer. And Rick, before we get started, I just want to say Clay and I have been talking quite a bit lately about like just people that we probably should talk to more. And your name popped up in my head as somebody I should probably talk to more than just a few friendly messages here and there on Instagram. And so here we are. And for everybody listening, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the comment. And likewise to you as well. My name is Rick Spicer. I am a born and bred Arkansan, so I've lived in Arkansas more or less my whole life. I do a lot of stuff. A lot of people know me from my Instagram page, Packrat Bushcraft, where I work on a wide variety of different types of wilderness skills. And my hub that I do all that through is my business, which is called Packrat Outdoor Center in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And it's a 51-year-old specialty retail shop, and we focus on everything from paddling and backpacking and climbing, that type of stuff. But we also have like bushcraft section and a traditional archery section. And I teach a wide variety of classes through that shop. But I'm also a survival instructor for Boulder Outdoor Survival School in Southern Utah. And I own another small business, and I have I'm a part in a new online survival training company that just started. So there's kind of a lot happening lately, or seemingly always. But it's good to be back on here. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, it's always good talking to you. Every time we talk about something, either it sparks my interest in something or makes me want to do something more, or just makes me remember what a cool guy you are. So,
oh, well, you're too kind. Thank you.
I got to jump in and just admit that I didn't know who Rick Spicer was. Then you said Packrat Bushcraft, and I was like, oh. And then I just while you guys were doing that little intro, I looked you up on Instagram and I was like, I follow this guy.
Oh, nice, nice.
So awesome content, and that makes me feel really crappy that I didn't know.
You
ahead
should.
of time.
You totally
no
should.
Worries. Yeah, no.
Terrible co-host, not doing his research. So here's something that I always think about when somebody teaches survival skills and things like that. How many watch lists do you think you're on? Because I bet you it's more than you think. I bet you're at least, at the very least, on the FBI's radar or something like that. and
You
even
know
us
what?
for this podcast.
Sure, I don't have time to worry about those kinds of things. And if I did, I would turn myself into a nervous wreck probably. So I just have to think that there's probably a whole lot of people that are a lot more worried about than me these
Oh
days.
yeah, absolutely.
I'm not doing anything illegal, so my conscience is pretty clean when it comes to that type of stuff. But at the same time, I do not. Yeah, I definitely don't really want to get political because politics kind of drive me crazy. But increasingly, I believe that we probably all better know how or belong to a community where we ought to have some measure of knowing how to look after ourselves because I dang sure am not depending on the government to do it for me. I'll just
Oh
put it
yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Politics over the past few years have completely just soured me to where I don't care about them either.
Oh, it's awful. It's so awful.
Yeah.
Just
Luke,
awful
Luke,
around.
who are you going to vote for? No,
See,
just
I don't
kidding.
even know if I'm
No,
going to
no,
vote.
no, no, no,
No, let me tell you this. The more I dive into my faith and grow my faith through reading and everything else, it solidifies the fact that I don't need man to decide anything for me.
There you go.
So, with that being said, I don't really care if I vote. I mean, if anything, I would be more worried about voting for legislation that is going to affect me, such as hunting regulations and things like that. Otherwise, honestly, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm interested in knowing, though, if Rick here, so you do survival stuff. I don't really care about politics so much, but there's a lot of people, including like historians, that are saying that we're at like kind of a precipice where, like war could be on the horizon.
Sure,
or
right,
like civil
yeah.
war. So like, are you interested in like the prepper side of things, or are you just kind of into
No.
okay?
No, I'm not. And I don't have, if that's your gig and your interest, that's fine. What I think increasingly I'm into is like, I want to be an asset for my community and the people that are in my circle. Because those are the places I can actually make a difference in the world. So my neighbors, my coworkers, my friends, my family, like I want to be available to help those people however I can. And maybe that's survival skills, but maybe that's just like helping somebody change a tire. Maybe that, it's just like whatever it is. I think that's the internet. And again, we're going to go on such a hard left turn here, but I just think because of the way that we can communicate across the whole planet, we're like worrying about things that we shouldn't. We don't have the capacity to worry about all the problems that we're presented with every single day, right? Like it's so overwhelming, it's crazy. We're supposed to worry about our household and our neighbor's household and what's happening in our community, and that's kind of it. And that's really what I've refocused on is like, how can I do good where I'm at, and the rest of it, I'm gonna go vote, and that's my business. And other than that, I'm gonna go right back to my house, my community, and try to do the best I can, raising my own kids, helping my neighbors, helping my coworkers, and I'm not going to worry about the rest of it.
Absolutely.
So, if whatever happens, and then I'll deal with it when it's here. But it's just my personal opinion that having a basement stocked full of supplies, that might help you for a little while, but that's, if we're really going to talk about long term, it's really not going to get you very far. It's your community and your ability to be resourceful, I believe, and adapt. That's what's going to actually see you through bad situations. So
Yeah.
So the reason I asked that whole question to begin with was I ended up hearing a story through a friend about, I can't remember his name, but he was a well-known guy on the East Coast that was a bushcraft skills instructor. And it turned out that later on in the guy's life, there was a guy that kept coming to all these classes over and over and over again all the time. And every time they got along real good and everything. Well, the guy was an FBI agent and was towards the end of his career. And I think it was Jerry something, maybe. And he's like, Jerry, I'm retiring. I just want you to know my name's really Bill. It's not Frank or whatever. And, I had to keep tabs on you, but you were always on the up and up. And that was in all of my reports that I've ever done. type of deal.
Wow.
And they were friends for like the past 15 years, or 20 years or whatever. And it turns out the whole time, he had to just kind of periodically check in to make sure he was on the up and up and not trying to teach people anything nefarious or anything. But yeah,
interesting.
Turns out he's actually into primitive skills, and he's just like, guys, I think the primitive skills community might be a place.
Right.
Oh, man.
But yeah, that just made me think of it because I don't actually teach anything. I'm more or less the student, but you never know when somebody's the instructor, whether or not they're watching you or not. And even if they are, not a big deal. Like you said, you're on the up and up, but that's just what made me think of it as that story.
No, it's funny, but you're absolutely right. You never know, but I'm not going to let it keep me awake at night. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, totally. So with that being said, I saw you went out hunting this morning.
Did.
And you had a pretty nice buck, just didn't get a shot.
Man, it was a best morning of the season so far. I don't know how it's been where you're at, but like I know obviously like all the terrible things that happened in North Carolina, all that water and everything. We're the exact opposite.
Yeah.
We are in like serious burn ban, super bad drought. I don't think it's rained here in over 2 months.
Yeah, I think we're about 4 or 5 month drought. We even had rain, but it's still. I mean, we got a half inch between the 5 rains that we may have had.
It's really bad, and there's a lot of acorns on the trees right now, but there's like no water anywhere, and it's been really hot. So like literally until this last weekend, we've still been in like the low 90s pretty much every day. And so finally this morning, I think it was like 46 degrees or something. It was super nice, no wind. And had a real nice sit. I think I saw 6 or 7 deer. And the last deer I saw was a pretty decent 8-point that came in, and he was about 20 yards from me and looked like if he'd just kept going on his trajectory, he would have probably given me a 12-yard shot. But of course, he stopped right behind a nice dogwood tree and stood there where I had no kind of shot through the foliage of this little dogwood. And I probably stood in my stand and watched him for several minutes, and then he just turned and went the other way. And that's what on the video you saw was him walking through some cedar trees in the opposite direction.
I saw him walking off, and then your story later on, you coming out talking about how it was a good day. But I'm hoping same thing here. It's today was the first day it was cooler, and tomorrow morning is supposed to be the coldest morning so far. Yeah, like 29 degrees. So.
Yep, same here, like 31 or something. I think. And of course, I can't get out of work in the morning. I'm super bummed about it. I gotta be in, but I'm gonna try to go Thursday. So hopefully, and it won't be a bad. I'm trying to look at it positively. I'm gonna let that spot rest, for a couple of days and get my scent out of there a little bit, hopefully, and then go back in and see if I can't catch him.
Can I ask you guys, sorry, I'm going to derail you both here just with that comment that you just made. If your scent matters so much for hunting, is that like, I hunt at a lot of places where a lot of people frequent. Mm-hmm. Would it be fair to say that like, maybe like more human scent would actually be better? Or rather like, is that only good for does? And like not bucks.
I think it's just what the deer get used to. Like if all of a sudden they experience scent in a place where they don't, since last January there was no human scent, and then all of a sudden they're starting to get it more. Mm-hmm. They're going to be more on edge, right? But if you're in a neighborhood, like in my town, there's deer all over the place, right in the middle of town. I mean, my wife and I drove up the street the other day. There were 5 deer, 3 on one side of the street, 2 on the other side. There's a woman pushing her baby in a stroller. There's a kid riding a bicycle. These deer don't care, right? But they're not being hunted. They're right in the middle of town, right? So I think the deer just adapt to the context in which they're in, right? And so if they're used to those scents and they're not being hunted, they don't care. But it's the opposite if they're in a place where they don't experience that daily. So.
I agree with that. Yep. And I don't think it's necessarily does or bucks. I think it strictly depends on the environment and how much exposure they have.
Yeah. Their noses are all the same. It's just what they're accustomed to or not dealing with, Although I will say, in general, I would consider does are often harder to kill because they're generally many of them together, and they have more noses and more sets of eyes. Bucks are typically in either alone or maybe a pair of them coming through, and so I honestly, over the years, have found it easier to kill younger bucks. Obviously not like really mature older bucks. They're their own animal altogether. But younger bucks I have found easier to take than does, personally.
And you guys have like a APRs or no, or can you just shoot young bucks if you want?
Yeah, currently we have so many deer like in my zone. I can shoot 2 bucks and I'm forgetting it. I think it's 5 total in the zone, but 6 in the state. I just have to go to another zone to get the other one, but I could kill 2 bucks and 3 does in my zone.
Holy cow! And when you buy your license, you get like you buy a bear tag and everything else too.
Bear tag's free.
Yeah, okay.
No
it
way.
comes with the license. Yeah,
it comes with we have, as a resident in Arkansas, it's the best deal in the country. I don't know of a state that has a better deal than what we have when it comes to what you pay for the opportunity it provides to you as a resident here. It's incredibly reasonable. More than reasonable. Yeah, it's a great opportunity.
So you just get like you buy a hunting license, and then that gives you like a deer or a couple deer tags, and then a bear tag as well.
Well, it includes all your deer tags if you're a resident. If you buy your hunting license, and I buy what's called a sportsman's combination license, so I get all the native fishing and small game and large game. You have to get a bear tag in Arkansas, but it's free. You just have to add it to your license. Elk is a different deal because it's highly regulated and there's very, very few tags. But one thing I'll tell you is that, and I may have mentioned this last time, I've mentioned it to a few places because it's unique, but Arkansas, to my knowledge, is the only state where you can shoot a white-tailed deer, an elk, a black bear, and an alligator all in the same state.
Wow, that's pretty cool, man.
I'm pretty sure we're unique in that regard. Yeah, so it would be very difficult to do that because elk tags are, unless you own land in one of the zones, it's almost impossible to get an elk tag. An alligator is tricky, but definitely doable. In fact, the alligator season just finished up in the South, and they had a pretty good harvest. It wasn't as good as last year, but it's quite a few. We have some big alligators in South Arkansas.
That's interesting.
That's insane. I had no idea that there was alligators in Arkansas.
Yeah, big ones. Not up here in the Ozarks. It gets too cold up because we're over 1,000 feet higher than they are down in the Delta and the coastal plains in the southern part of Arkansas, but they get pretty big down there.
That's awesome.
So Luke, where we went hunting pigs, there could be potentially in that water because it was so close to Arkansas there.
Oh no, without a doubt, they're probably at least to the south of there because my dad's place is Lake Fork, and there's some alligators on Lake Fork. So
yeah.
Well, that freaks me out. Now I'm like every time I'm in the South, I'm gonna be like wondering if like I can just go take a dip or not.
All kinds of creepy crawlies and big tooth things in the water. Yeah, for sure.
I'm like I live in Michigan, Rick, and so like I like swimming, and like during the summer I'll I'll probably sound like a whiner here, but when it gets into the 80s. It's like, so this is so horribly hot, and I have a pair of swim trunks with me at all times, and I live right by Grand Traverse Bay on Lake Michigan, and so I just like will swim in it sometimes 2 times a day, to cool off, and I'm like such a swimming person that it's like, oh my god, I couldn't imagine there being alligators in the water.
Oh, you can still swim. You just gotta be a little more cautious.
Yeah. So what's your elk herd like? Because we have a small one in Michigan too. We've got about 2,000.
I have not checked in a few years on what the actual numbers are, but I can tell you that they're limited to the Buffalo River Valley, and that's the only area where really the current wild elk are within the state. And they had a pretty bad CWD breakout several years ago, and they culled quite a few of them. And so the population now I know is quite a bit smaller than it was just maybe 6, 7 years ago. But I'm not exactly sure what the numbers are. I know that there's still a decent number of them out there, but they don't give out very many tags. But my dad has a friend that has a piece of property in one of the elk zones, and one of those guys just shot a real nice 6x6 just about a week ago.
Oh, sweet.
So there are some, some good opportunities if you're one of the lucky folks that has access to do that. I put in every year, and I will forever, and I'll probably never get one. They're just, as just a regular person trying to do it on public land, it's not easy. You as hard as it is to get a Western tag, it would still be easier than trying to do it in Arkansas.
Yeah, I can believe that. Same thing with the Kentucky, although I've heard some stories recently that the whole Kentucky thing has been abused as far as, I guess there's several lawsuits involving the Kentucky Elk Lottery and allocating tags to people who probably shouldn't have actually drawn it. Friendships and things like that. But that's sad to see because it's such an awesome program and such a amazing resource, and then we go and we abuse it in ways like that to where who knows how it can be managed.
Definitely.
The elk herd here, how they do it is if you choose to do antlered, then you can, if you get drawn, you can never apply again. But if you choose antlerless, then you can apply in 10 years. But,
oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So like, they only give out 200 tags a year, I think. And like maybe 10 of them are to non-residents.
Yeah.
So I should be applying is what you're saying. So what you're telling me is there's a chance.
I mean, Michigan elk hunting has to be literally one of the easiest because just like you said, Rick, they're limited to like one range. They want them to stay all in one spot, basically. They put in like fields of buckwheat for them out in the wild. I mean, it's like they are wild animals, but like they're kind of augmented.
They're highly managed though, right?
Yeah, they're highly managed. But what's funny is I live 100 miles away from that area, and there's been an elk in my neighborhood. All the local people have been talking about it around here. There's an elk on the trail.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff will occasionally happen here too, where you'll hear stories or something about one wandered out. Yeah, so it does happen.
You guys are lucky, man. I don't have any of that. That's cool.
It's pretty cool.
Go ahead, Rick.
I was going to say it is pretty cool just to have them there. I mean, every once in a while, just to get to go watch them. There's a couple of spots where you're not allowed to hunt them, where they tend to congregate in the upper part of that river valley. And at certain times of the year, well, right now, honestly, you'll drive over there and there'll be 30, 40 cars parked on the side of the highway just with binoculars or taking photographs of them. And it's pretty cool just to have them there,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Rick, Arkansas seems like an awesome spot, man.
Yeah.
It's my secret for you guys. Don't tell anyone else.
Yeah. It's not like Montana at all. No. So you could just go to Montana and fill up all the valleys there.
Yeah. No, I mean, Arkansas is a very nice state. I'll tell you though, there's definitely a lot of people moving to the north part of the state right now, and it is changing pretty rapidly. Our population and just the development and everything, and I'm pretty nervous about that, quite frankly. I'm on the board for two different organizations. One of them is Arkansas Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, and the other one is called Northwest Arkansas Land Trust. And obviously with BHA, our mission is to protect access and protect habitat. Those are the two things that we focus on. And the other organization I'm part of is really to work with landowners to basically put conservation easements in place, and sometimes we even recognize either historical or really rare properties that are critical to wildlife habitat, or maybe you've got two big tracts of land and there's this piece in the middle that maybe acts as like a corridor or something, and so we'll work either with landowners or sometimes go purchase that land and really try to make sure that we're continuing to do the best we can of protecting the resources and the habitat as this area continues to grow. And we're certainly not the only place doing that type of work. There's a lot of states right now where there's areas that have been recognized as nice places to live, and the unfortunate thing is that comes with a cost, right? Cost of living goes up, real estate goes up, traffic gets worse, and then your green spaces and your habitat starts to go away if you don't protect it. And so that type of work is going to be more and more important in the future, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think I've actually seen some articles on that, to where it's one of the fastest growing economies currently in the United States right now is in Arkansas.
It's growing too fast in my opinion. But I've lived here my whole life, and watching it change, it's not easy.
I'm one of the guys who drives in the car, Rick, with my wife, and we'll be going somewhere, and I'll say, "Man, I remember when this was nothing but fields over here, or this was timber over here, and there's the field over here. There's only one house.
Yep.
This is crazy. Look at all these houses."
Yep, I'm that guy too. And I get it. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, but we need more nature and more wild places, not less, in my opinion. And
absolutely,
so when you have, we have those types of areas, it's good to do, or at least think really hard before we just go bulldoze it and put it in a new apartment complex. And I know we need houses, and affordable housing in particular is real important. That's a whole other aspect in and of itself. But the cost of living here is still affordable compared to many places around the country, but compared to what Arkansans were used to just a few years ago, it's risen significantly, and it's only going to keep going up. So that's the older I get, those are the kinds of things that I'm thinking about more and more, whether I like it or not. I still love teaching skills and getting out and hunting, and especially with my own kids, getting in the woods and doing stuff with them. Those are still the things I want to be spending my time doing. But as I get older, I recognize that I have to think about not my kids and other people that are a part of this community, and like, what can I do to help maintain the quality of life that we've known here, and protect that as well as we can.
Yeah. I got to ask you though, are you still a trad bow guy, or are you doing self bow, or like a commercial one?
No, I'm trad right now. I still shoot self bows. I haven't made any bows in a couple of years. I just haven't had time, but I still have a couple of self bows that I made. And the best bows I own, period, are from Corey Hawk, and I still shoot those bows pretty regularly. But lately, I've been shooting a Striker Classic, and I love that long bow. And a lot of it, I think, is, if I'm honest with myself, like, I'm a trad guy, full on. I've just committed to that path. Like, I'm not going to say I'll never go back and ever shoot a compound bow ever again, but it's just not interesting to me. I enjoy my time in the woods so much more, and the process of shooting a bow is so much more rewarding to me shooting a trad bow than it is to shoot a compound bow. If that's your thing, great. It's just not my thing. But if I'm honest with myself, though, I shoot a center shot bow much more accurately, and my range is significantly extended than if I shoot a self bow, certainly a primitive self bow, where if I'm shooting off my hand. And so 20 yards is my absolute maximum shot, really, with a primitive style bow like that. But I can eke out another 10 yards with a center shot bow and feel a lot more confident about that shot. And those distances, I'm gap shooting, and so I tend to be instinctive under 20 yards with that bow. I just pick my spot, focus on my shot process, and say my mantra, and shoot the arrow. But if I know my gaps and my point on and everything at 20, 25, and 30, and especially in hunting situations, like I'll range trees and I'll know what my distances are around me, and if I feel confident, I'll take those shots. But if it's not perfect, I won't. So
makes
it's kind
sense.
of the
Dang.
system
It's kinda
I've
why I
developed
hung it
for
up.
myself. Yeah.
It's
hard. I mean,
yeah.
it's a struggle, it really is. I mean, I look back now of 20 something, almost 30 years of deer hunting, pretty avidly. And I have a long list of nice whitetails, antlers that would be hanging on my wall had you've been using a crossbow or even a compound bow. And I've gone back and forth about, do I regret that or not? And no, I don't regret it. Like, sure, on one hand, it'd be nice, but having the antlers on the wall has always been a lot less important to me than the experience and the process of just being out there with that bow. And it's hard, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah.
It can be real frustrating. And I'll also be the first one to tell you that I've experienced that frustration and given into it. The best whitetail deer I've ever shot was with a compound bow, and that was about 10 years ago. And I can't remember if I told you this story or not, Luke, before.
I don't know.
I just reached my breaking point because I'd either missed or just like shot and missed, or seen a lot of really nice deer for many years that just would never quite come into the range I needed them at. And after one hunting season, I was just like, I can't take this anymore. It's driving me crazy. And so I went and bought a compound bow. Literally the next season, I shot a 10-point with it. There wasn't any kind of monster buck or anything like that. I mean, it's probably 140-point buck or something like that. Just a very respectable but average Ozark whitetail buck. And I put it down, haven't picked it back up since. I still own it. But it was like I just needed to get it out of my system.
Yeah.
And I did it, and I was like, I'm glad I did that, and I don't feel bad about having done it, but that's not how I want to do this. And again, that's a decision everybody has to make for themselves. And it should be based upon the type of experience you want to have in the woods, not what someone else's opinion of how you hunt is, right? That's the important thing. Like, you should do it for your own reasons, the enjoyment that you get out of it, and the challenges that you want to have, and the experiences maybe that you want to have with your friends and that type of stuff. Because very few of the other friends that I have here locally, they're all gun hunters. Very few of them trad bow hunt. Very few of them even archery hunt, of the guys that I actually spend time with in the woods. I know a lot of really great trad hunters, but unfortunately, most of them live in other states, and I don't get to hunt with them very much. But when I do, it's awesome. I wish I could travel out of state more, right? It's super fun. I've always wanted to kind of establish like a annual trad camp kind of thing. And I just haven't ever had the ability to kind of put that together. And it's always tough when you're trying to do it in different states, because if people are coming from out of state, like, they're paying more to do the hunt, right? And sometimes that can be complicated, and can you get the tags and all that? And yeah, at some point I'd like to put that together, but
That'd be cool though.
That would
be
cool.
It
would. It'd be fun.
If I ever picked it back up again, maybe I'd go do that, but
Yeah,
I just don't see it right now. I really don't. Just the amount of time with my kids and all that kind of stuff going on right now. It's just, I don't think it's in my wheelhouse. It took me 3 weeks to try and get a sight tape on, because I had about 10 minutes a day. Right in the evening, I'd go out and just sling a couple arrows, and then I go, okay, make an adjustment. All right, I'll figure out and see if that's right on tomorrow. And it took me a while to do that. And I almost, in my head, thought to myself, maybe I'll just pick up the crossbow. I'll check it. I'll know that thing's dead on. And then within that split second, I'm like, then I'll see the biggest deer of my life. I'll shoot it, I'll kill it, and I'll go, to me, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It's all about how much work I put into it in order to get out of it. And one day, hopefully I kill, whatever. And what's weird though, is I find expectations, change with different skill sets. Like to me, a trophy deer with a trad bow might be a spike buck,
Every deer is for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I am as excited about, a young deer, doe, whatever, almost as I am. And I think that's one of the reasons I love it so much, is because every single hunt, every single opportunity, I'm looking at that as a trophy,
Yeah.
regardless of the antler size. And to your point, I don't get that feeling if I'm out there with the rifle or with a compound bow or anything. I've never used a crossbow, but same kind of thing. And again, that's my opinion, and I'm not trying to push how I feel about it on anybody. It's just a matter of that's what I enjoy. So,
no, absolutely. I think everybody needs to set their own expectations for themselves, but then a lot of people don't actually set their expectations with reality. And that's one thing that I have truly learned, is certain pieces of property are just not going to produce the same quality as some of the other ones. And you have to expect that going into it, or else you're just going to beat your head up against the wall trying to find some deer that just really aren't there.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think that's another thing that people nowadays, especially if you don't have a lot of life experience deer hunting, and you're basing it on what you see on social media and Instagram, and it's like, come on, man, these, nothing against, some of these folks out there that are very good hunters, but to your point, the place you hunt has as much to do with, the likelihood of you harvesting a mature buck as any skill set you have, right? Like, if the deer aren't there, the deer aren't there, right? And or if there's a lot of mature bucks there, obviously the odds go way up. And so, if you're just hunting in some small property close to your house, or you're on national forest land, and you're just dealing with whatever natural deer are out there, that's going to be a very different experience than someone that's hunting on a managed property, or even just in a part of the country that has like adjacent to really good farmland and nutrition for those deer, right? So there's a lot of variables that I think when people get started that they're not fully aware of, and it can be frustrating. But after that, it's like, okay, I need to change my expectations, or I need to go somewhere else,
right,
to be able to have the opportunity to do what I'd like to do. That's a great point.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for me, I like gun hunting, but I, as I mentioned before we started talking, I can't stand for the life of me just sitting around waiting for deer. So, like, for me to make it more interesting, deer hunting, the thing that I've been working on for the last couple years is just stalking deer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten some truly amazing experiences. In the last 3 years, I've shot 2 deer, but like, they were deer that like I had to work hard for, and
that's awesome.
And I got they were does. So, like, as you actually mentioned this earlier, how they're hard because there's so many of them. Last year, I had a deer walk 10 feet from me and snort and stomp her feet at me, but the wind was blowing towards me. So I just stayed completely still, and there's about 8 does. And I must have stood there for 10 minutes. I mean, maybe it wasn't as long. Maybe I'm making it longer in my head, but it felt like an eternity.
Yeah.
And she finally like goes, okay, I guess it's nothing to worry about. Turns around and walks back to her group, and then I shot her. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. That was like such a good feeling. But it was with a gun, and some people might say, oh, that's really like easy, but for me, it was like so much work and so
Well,
much more enjoyable.
Yeah, well, but it did require a lot of patience in the moment, right? Like if
Yeah.
you had not have been able to hold it together, like that opportunity would not have turned out the way that it did, right? So,
Yeah.
even though you're using a different weapon system, it still took patience and determination, and in order to see that through all this. So, and
Yeah.
I rifle hunt too, man. I mean, I would in a perfect scenario, my freezer would be full by with my bow before rifle season starts.
Hmm.
But I got no problems getting that rifle out. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with it, and I think that's the other reason I'm less interested in compound bows, is because I love the trad thing so much, and I do it as much as I can. And when the second week in November gets here, it's like, all right, I've had my fun. It's time to get the meat, and
Hmm.
the 308 comes out of the safe, and we're gonna go get it done. Uh, and then I'll go back to bow hunting for, if I'm lucky enough to have some time, the last part of December. And our archery season in Arkansas goes to the end of February.
What?
Holy
Really?
cow.
Yeah. It's one of the longest seasons in the country too. I will tell you though that I don't like shooting. I mean, one is that the bucks tend to start losing their antlers mid-January, and so I've actually shot a buck with a bow. My first trad harvest, actually, I thought it was a doe, and it was a buck that had already shed its antlers.
No way.
Oh.
And so I was bummed about that. Yeah, I was excited because, and this was, golly, 15 years ago or more. And so I'm really careful now if I'm going to hunt late season, so I don't shoot a buck that's already lost its antlers. And the other thing is that it's very likely if you do shoot a doe that it's going to have a fetus. And so I tend to, try to avoid that scenario. So usually I hardly ever hunt in February.
Mm.
It's really like first week of January is kind of like the last hurrahs for as far as deer season goes, and that's only if I haven't if I can shoot 3 deer a year, I will, because we eat a ton of venison. I mean, I'm all about trying to eat as much as I can, even 4 deer sometimes. I rarely shoot 5, but I'll definitely shoot 3 and maybe 4. And so I like having it, but a lot of years
You got kids?
2, yeah.
Too,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're
So,
10
so you guys go through a lot of venison. Then I take it.
We
Yeah.
do.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say in my house, I actually, unfortunately, car hunted a deer a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And
Hey, it happens.
and I was able. I mean, this is so disgusting, and I don't think I've said this on the podcast yet. But I got out of the car and I was like, well, nothing else to do. I was just sitting there waiting. So I got my knife out and I just started. I mean, like 3 minutes after I hit the thing, I'm like slicing it open and like, pulling the legs off and stuff. And its muscles were still twitching,
Yeah.
as I was cutting into it. Like it was dead, but
Right.
but its muscles were like
Right.
actually spasming
Yeah.
for like many
Yeah.
minutes while I was cutting it. But my point was, that meat is gone. I mean, it just doesn't last long. Like I don't know how
No.
people can be like, oh, I shot a deer.
Yep. And
Like
I'm
Right.
it's
done. Yeah.
meat.
Yeah. We're the same way. And I mix it a lot too. Like anything I grind, we're usually doing half and half with like grass-fed beef and stuff, to make it go
Mm.
further, to get that fat content in there. So that's pretty common for us, at least on the ground meat. And so we will find like a local farmer and buy a quarter cow or something, and then mix it together, and that helps to just make it go farther.
Yeah.
Nice.
Do your kids have any I don't know how old they are, but do your kids like the flavor of just regular unadulterated venison?
Yeah, they do, and mainly because they've always eaten it their whole life. I
Okay.
never gave them a chance to, you know what I mean. From the time
Yeah.
they were literally babies and could chew food, they were eating deer meat, so
Yeah.
they don't know a life without it.
Yeah, that's my kids too, man.
Yeah.
They actually prefer venison over beef. That's
Mine
kind of
too.
weird.
Very, yeah, that's awesome. Very proudly, if you ask my daughter what her favorite meat is, she will tell you elk is her favorite meat.
Ooh, yeah.
And which makes me want to, or it makes me feel a little bit bad that I don't get to provide one every year. I certainly wish I could, but yeah, get those opportunities are harder and harder to come by each year. So,
So,
and I, yeah.
were you chasing this year with stone points, or
No, I have not. I'm doing something new this year. I'm using trade points. So they are commercially made trade points. I shoot A Boyer broadheads primarily. I really like those guys as far as their quality. And they're super sharp and but they, you know, they're great craftsmanship. Having said that, they're not cheap. They are worth the money, in my opinion. They're very, very well made broadheads, but broadheads have gotten very expensive.
yeah,
And so I will tell you that they make a trade point that's a pretty cool little point that I have gotten. I have yet to shoot an animal with one, but they fly really good and they're much less expensive. And you mount them on your arrows just like a stone point. You cut a groove in and slide it in, haft it with a pitch or resin or epoxy if you want, and then you'll haft it with artificial sinew. And I've been really happy with them. They look super cool. They fly really good. And hopefully here soon, I'm going to get a chance to actually take a deer with one and see how they do. But I don't have any doubts they're going to perform just fine.
so are those currently on your arrows now? Then,
Yeah,
okay.
that's what I was hunting with this morning.
So
So,
you
yeah.
got Orford shafts or something, cedar shafts, or what do you?
I shoot Sherwood shafts, so they're
Okay.
Douglas fir. Yeah,
Yeah,
I still build all my own arrows. I much prefer wood arrows, and I honestly almost only shoot Sherwood shafts. Carson that owns that company, those guys just make the best wood shafting available, in my opinion. So I buy the raw shafting from him, and I'll, stain them, seal them, fletch them, do the rest myself, and I sell them in my shop that way. And I've for years now, I've primarily hunted with those. I do still like making river cane primitive arrows, and I haven't made a set in a little while. They're a lot more time consuming to make, but it is fun. Just go out and harvest everything from the land yourself and make those arrows. But tuning them and getting them to fly as well is a lot more work than buying a set of weight matched
right,
for
right.
arrows. Yeah, right. So
Plus
that
or
part's
minus,
nice.
plus or minus 4 grains
And
or
it,
5
and
grains.
it exactly. And like as we were talking about earlier, like trad is already pretty dang hard, right? Like I have enough things stacked against me without dependable arrow flight being part of the equation there. And so that's why I like hunting with those particular shafts so much. And of course, there's a lot of other materials you can make the arrow shafts out of, but if you want like to just order a super solid set, I'd really like those.
I feel like a wood shaft is very forgiving. Like in my experience shooting them, like
I agree.
yeah,
Yeah, I can shoot the same. Like I'll tend to like my striker I'm shooting right now. It's a 55 draw weight at 28, but I'm a 27, so I'm pulling probably 52, 53 on that bow. And I order 55 grain wood shafts, and I can shoot those same shafts out of a 45, a 50, 55 bow. It shoots great. The point weight and total arrow weight has way more to do with the arrow trajectory than the spine does, in my opinion. If they're a lot harder, they're just going to drop way faster. So you've got to really change your aiming method as you start to get out, beyond 15 yards or so, especially if you're shooting at 25 or beyond that. But otherwise, as far as like just the flatness and if you're getting knock left, knock right, or any of that type of stuff, they're I mean, I would completely agree with you. They're quite forgiving. They shoot
yeah.
well out of a variety of bows.
I feel like when I was shooting, especially with a recurve over a longbow, I noticed that shooting like aluminum or carbon versus shooting the wood, I always grouped better with the wood. And I don't know if it was like the spine of them was a little too stiff or like, and maybe not even the spine. The spine's not probably not the right word, but the flex that it gave and snapped back with the wood to where you didn't get that same give in the aluminum or the carbon.
I have found that carbon arrows and aluminum as well, but the brace height of your bow and the spine of the arrows needs to really be dialed just right in order to get groups where you want them. And it's with wood, you still need to get that brace height dialed in, but you have a little more wiggle room, in my opinion, to still get reasonable groups. At least for hunting purposes. I'm not. I'm a decent shot, but I'm not hitting a quarter every time at 20 yards. I want to be able to hit I'm trying to hit a cantaloupe every time at 25 yards and inside. That's my goal. I want to be smaller than the size of a white-tailed deer's lung. That's what I'm going for.
That works.
Yeah. And I do small game hunt a little bit. Occasionally I'll get a wild deer and go squirrel hunt with my bow, or the one thing that I wish we had here in Arkansas that I would love to do out west is grouse hunting with a bow and arrow. It is a ton of fun. And we just don't have grouse.
You've got grouse, right, Clay?
Oh yeah, I've got grouse everywhere. But I've actually, I was just talking the other day to Daniel, when he was here, and I said I've never hunted a grouse.
What?
Like,
why not?
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Yeah,
I
you
just,
should.
I just have never. It's like the funniest thing too is like I always see grouse when I'm doing other stuff.
Right. Of course.
And when I don't have a gun on me, I actually a few years ago shot a deer. I was tracking it, and I had 2 grouse 7 feet away from me. It was grouse season. I could have just like grabbed them and
Yeah.
But I was
Run
just
their
like,
neck.
I was like, why are these grouse? They were looking at me. They were just kind of like, and I'm like, damn it. Like, why are these grouse here right now when I don't have a gun in my hands?
Yeah.
Did you have a bow?
No, I did not have a bow. I didn't have a gun. I didn't have anything. I set it all down when I went to go get the deer.
Rookie move. No.
Right.
But what is I gonna do? Like shoot a deer with a freaking 30-30? Or sorry, shoot the grouse with the 30-30?
Grouse
Well,
with, right.
Isn't that the reason why they used to have those combo guns back in the day, where it was like a 22 barrel on the bottom and or on top and like a 30-30 on the underneath it?
Oh,
like
that's yeah.
I believe that's the reason why they had that, is because when they were hunting, you could hunt big game or you could hunt small game all with the same rifle while you're out there in the field, never have to carry 2 things.
Oh, that's a cool idea. But I'm interested in, like, how are you hunting grouse, and are you hunting like prairie grouse, or
No, forest grouse.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's always on elk hunting trips. That's when I'm doing it. So they're rough grouse and dusky grouse. Those are the species.
Oh, so they are rough grouse.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you're hunting them with a bow.
Oh yeah, they're like the
Wow.
perfect bow because they're highly stalkable.
Uh-huh.
So you can definitely get within range if you're just a little bit patient, and they're size of a chicken, so it's totally doable for as far as the target size. It's a better target even than a squirrel.
Yeah.
Actually quite a bit better. And so for like a challenge that's fun and great to eat, it's just it's like the perfect thing. I would kill if we had grouse in Arkansas. It'd be amazing. I've been saying, actually, like, if I don't get an elk tag next season, I may actually do like a backpack hunting grouse trip.
Oh, that'd be cool.
It would be super fun. Take like a fly rod or a fishing rig with you too, and do kind of cast and blast, although that wouldn't be the right term, right? But come up with something. I mean, I think it would be super fun to do something like that. So,
and that then you stumble when you're out there. That's when you stumble on like
Oh yeah,
a 420-inch elk.
exactly
Yeah.
7x7 out there just looking at you, right?
And then you're
that
like,
would
oh
absolutely
man.
be my luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That'd be my luck too, for sure.
yeah.
Rick, one of the things I was going to ask you about is I see you've been making a lot of quivers lately. Is that
Yeah. So
like
thank you for bringing that
side
up.
thing
Yeah.
or?
So no, so that was started out as many small businesses do as a passion project, right? It was just like I was never really happy with a lot of the different types of quivers that I've been using. And so a few years ago, I was like, I wonder if I could come up with something. So I sort of pieced together this prototype and used it for a little while. And I met this guy, and he was. I told him, and he was a professional sewer, and he built me about 50 of these things that was like my first prototype, and I sold them in my store. And then he couldn't do it anymore. And then I was trying to find somebody else that could build these quivers for me, and then COVID happened. And so at that point, it was everybody was shut down. Obviously, couldn't find anybody to do it. As started to come out of COVID, I was still struggling to find somebody and that would be willing to build these things for me. And so basically, I had to make a choice. I was like, I either need to let this go or I need to learn to do this. And so I bought an industrial sewing machine, taught myself how to sew. I spent about 8 months just trial and error, reading everything I could, watching videos, like all of us learn how to do things these days, right?
Yep.
And after about 8 or 9 months, I learned the techniques that I needed in order to put this thing together, and I started building them and selling them. And from that would have been beginning of 22, roughly when I started doing that. And so I told myself I was going to build and sell 100 of these things. And if I could do that, it would kind of be like my litmus test to prove there was enough of an interest there. And so long story short, all of that, I just relaunched the new brand. It went through a few iterations, but I actually finally hired some marketing people to build me a legit website, and I got a trademark attorney involved to trademark a name and get some legal advice. And I got started in an LLC and all this stuff. So it's a legit small business now, and they're being made in two places. I have a guy I know here in my town in Fayetteville, Arkansas, that is building these small batches of limited runs in limited colors. And so those will be actually, they're already up on the website. And will be for sale hopefully very soon. And then up in kind of central Missouri, actually, just outside of St. Louis a little ways, there's a company up there called Goki Manufacturing, and they make really nice handmade custom hunting boots. And they also do a lot of professional canvas work. And I've been working with them over the last 6 months to try to develop this product. And we finally landed on a new model that's crazy heavy duty. I mean, this thing's designed to last forever. It's like 22-ounce wax canvas that it's made out of. And those should be on their way to me currently. Like, hopefully any day I'll have them in hand and get the final details of the website. But the name changed several times. It was Backcountry Quiver for quite a while. And the main product is still called Backcountry Quiver, but the company is I'll be interested to see if this means anything to you guys, but the name of it is MALLORN or MALLORN, MALLORN. Have you ever heard that word before? Does it ring a bell
No.
at all?
It's a forlorn mallard.
Right. It's actually, it comes out of J.R.R. Tolkien literature, which is why I had to get a copyright attorney involved, was to see if I could actually use it. And turns out, as long as I don't make a movie or write a book and use the word, I can actually copyright it for the purposes of outdoor gear. And so that's what I'm in the process of doing right now. So
Nice.
the website is mallorngear.com. You can go there now. The website is like, I would say 80-90% finished. There's a few tweaks and I still have some products to add, and just kind of get it cleaned up. And then once I have the inventory in hand, to literally just put everything in stock and they'll be ready to buy. But it's everything on there as far as the products are American made, either here in Arkansas, Missouri. They are there's some accessories that go with them, and then some merch. I had some T-shirts and that kind of stuff. But I am using a kind of a third party company to help me with that, because I don't have space to stock all that stuff.
Is that one of the T-shirts that you're wearing, or is that?
What's that?
Is the T-shirt that you're wearing right now with the bear skull?
No, this is an old one I've had for a long time. It's arrows with a coyote skull.
Oh, coyote skull. Yeah, because it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it is a cool shirt. I can't even remember where I got this actually. I've had this shirt for years. But no. And I'm hopefully going to be developing some new things. But right now I need to keep it pretty tight and kind of focus on that. And so that has been a lot of my time and energy and money and everything. It's just like getting this thing into production. And so I've had a bunch of people sending me social media messages, mainly on Instagram, and a little bit of Facebook, and then just directly through the website. So I'm really grateful to everyone either that's already bought one or that's been interested in them. But it's what I hunt with for everything now. And the backcountry model is definitely made for backcountry hunting. It's designed specifically to attach to the side of a larger backpack, so you can carry it into the mountains with you and then super quickly just pop it off. It's got everything you need that you can hold on there, throw it on your back, grab it and go. And the whole thing behind the process of why I decided to do this is because I've always preferred a clean bow. I don't know why exactly. It's hard to put it into words, but I have never liked carrying arrows on my bow. I just like the bow to be just a bow. That's all. Without the distraction or the interference of having those arrows on there. And I don't know. I think back quivers are cool. Obviously, I wouldn't be.
I think back quivers are cool for trad bows.
Yeah, right. I mean, obviously, like not just kind of a different thing for compound. Although I will tell you, where I have had some compound bow guys buying them are for 3D shoots.
Oh, that totally makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and so because a lot of those guys like their bows clean for doing shoots and that kind of stuff, or even stuff like tack and those kinds of things. And for events, I've had several compound guys buy the back quivers because you can hold a water bottle and some snacks or like a little bit of small gear in there. It's got a place to strap your jacket on the side. You can carry your arrows in there. It's everything you need for half day out in the field. That kind of thing.
Yeah, years ago I couldn't afford a safari tough, so I made my own, and I took like what was it? It was like the PVC, but it was like the gutter piping, like drain piping, so it was way thinner. It wasn't like Schedule 40.
It was lighter,
way lighter. And then I even drilled holes in that, put fabric, lined the inside with like a felt, and then the outside was a different fabric. Made my own straps for it, and then pouches. And I carried everything I needed. And I think even at one point I might actually made a sheath and like riveted the sheath to the quiver, and then I had everything I needed right there on it when I was hunting, and it was nice. It was super nice. And it's like you just throw your quiver on your back, you grab your bow, and you're out the door.
Yep. I've increasingly been trying to be more and more like minimalistic when I'm going hunting, and like not have so much gear with me. Just like keep it clean. And I'm even kind of getting away from camo and just like going back to wearing a lot of flannel, old school.
I always,
I like that whole kind of vibe. I mean, as long as you're breaking up your outline and being still and managing your scent, that's what matters,
Yeah, there's a guy at a bait shop that I always stop and talk to, and he was telling me, he goes, I don't know why people don't wear them more. Everybody's buying all the expensive stuff. He goes, for the past 40 years, all we've ever used is black Carhartts And he goes, you put black Carhartts in a tree in the wintertime. And he goes, you're not going to see that person. He goes, the outline, they blend in with the background so well, they don't even exist. He goes, you're walking through the woods, you step into a shadow and you disappear.
No, I mean, that's exactly right. Just something that blends in and breaks you up. That's really all you need.
Yeah, the camo thing has always like really made me chuckle a little bit. I have this my brother-in-law. I remember one time before I got into deer hunting, really. Like, I mean, I wanted to do it, but he gets all of his camo gear on, and I was down in southern Michigan, and then he gets ready and he gets his bow, and then he goes and he gets into a tree stand, and I'm like, I don't, or no, I'm sorry, he goes into a blind.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm just like,
That's
what the hell
pretty
did
funny.
you put the camo on
Right.
for? Like,
Yeah.
no deer is even going to be looking inside that blind.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
It's like
the place I think where I can see a place for some of this higher end camo, if you're doing these like mountain hunting trips for elk and even sheep and some of these more like exotic kind of trips, because you need that sort of like lightweight packable type, like backpacking type stuff. But then but the backpacking gear, and I know because I sell it for a living, it tends to be shiny and bright colors, and because for safety reasons, right? Like if you're a mountain climber, you want to be seen. And so I think initially several years ago, these hunting companies recognized that, oh, we want that gear, but we need it to work for our purposes for hunting. And so I think the early idea of that was a good idea, but it's pretty well gotten out of hand at this point. I mean, the stuff's so expensive, and it's just like, do we really need 57 different camo patterns? Probably not. You know, but at the same time, I also believe in people's rights to spend their money on whatever they want to spend.
That's also true.
If they enjoy it. Doesn't matter what I think. You know, you do you. As long as you're not hurting anybody else, that's who cares what I think. You do your thing.
One application I like for camo is definitely is when I go duck hunting. Seems a little bit more necessary.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a completely different, or turkey hunting, right? Like there's a completely different, and obviously I guess it helps to preface that, right? Like we're kind of specifically talking about, you know, deer and, you know, cervids, you know, hunting those types of, that have a completely different type of vision, but you get into birds and other things, right? That have a completely different set. So obviously that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Well, man, you're an amazing dude. I've really enjoyed listening to you talk about the primitive hunting stuff.
We've got to ask you though, Rick, what is the worst wild food that you've ever eaten?
The worst wild food I have ever eaten. Oh man, let me think about this one for a second. And it could be anything.
Yeah. I mean, you're a forager too, so yeah.
Oh gosh, I should have a good answer for this, I feel like, but I haven't. You kind of stumped me. I haven't thought about this. I know I've eaten some things before that I didn't care for. But like recently, I guess my problem is I've kind of figured out the things that, well, it's not my problem. It's a good thing, I guess, but is I've kind of figured out the things that are in enough abundance that I can actually harvest them and actually make use of them. And so I've just kind of stick with the things I know, and I probably need to stretch my brain a little bit more these days because I've kind of gotten comfortable with like the 20 things that I can recognize and see. But I know that well, I will tell you, I guess this would count because okay, so actually I know what I'm going to tell you. Alligator fat is horrible.
Oh my God.
I've been told it's actually like you shouldn't eat it, and I'm not sure if that's actually true. But I had an experience years ago where I was in a remote location with some other people for an extended period of time. And that was our main source of protein, and it was nauseating because we were primarily eating the flesh, the meat, right, and trying to get the protein from it, but we didn't have a good way to process it, and so we ended up, cooking it on a campfire, and the meat would cook in its own fat, and it was repulsive. So I would say I would say reptile fat, although I've eaten like lizards, and I've eaten horse frogs, and well, that's probably the only amphibian I've ever eaten that I can think of. But yeah, in particular, now that I think about it, I would without a doubt say reptile fat. It's repulsive in my opinion. Even now to think about it just gives me memories that make me slightly nauseous.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I can't say that I tried that.
Like in my mind, because an alligator, pretty much everything is like putrefied. Like it is rotten. It purposely takes it somewhere and lets it just get soggy and soft and rot.
Yeah.
Before they even eat it. That I feel like
Is
that's
that true?
Yeah.
They do that?
It's pretty gnarly. I mean, I think they'll just eat about anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm no means an alligator expert at all. Like I have very limited knowledge of their diet and how they deal with food or anything like that. I will tell you that like I have some experience in the swamp due to that project I was a part of, but I am not your swamp guy. Like I will go to the desert, I'll go to the mountains. I love forests. If you want to be in a swamp, I'm not your guy. I know my limitations, and I'm glad we have swamps, and they're an important part of our ecosystem, and we need them. But I will let other people visit them. And
I think weren't we talking to like Donnie Dust or somebody about that too? And he was like, "Yeah, swamps are terrible."
Donnie was part of the same project I did.
Okay.
And yeah, and so it was a deal for the History Channel years ago, and I feel the same way. Like we need swamps; they're important. I don't want to be in one. I'm glad there's people that enjoy them and want to study them and appreciate them because they are amazing ecosystems and they're important, but they're not for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one.
I really want to start a movement where instead of calling them swamps, we call them Dagobahs.
Okay.
Like Yoda, like the Yoda's
yeah,
planet.
Right. You're right. Yeah. There you go.
Because that's what I call them on a day. I'm like, oh, it's a Dagobah.
All right. So on that note,
for me,
Rick, it's been great talking to you.
I appreciate the opportunity. If there's one last thing I can say before we're done, is that if folks are interested in looking at some new opportunities for survival skills, I'm part of a group of people it's kind of a long story, but this new website subscription service just started, and it's called Survival Mastery. And so if you Google survivalmastery.co, I believe, it'll take you to this site, and they pulled in. And so Donnie's on there. My buddy Philip Liebel's on there, Ray Livingston, some other folks from Boulder Outdoor Survival School, EJ Snyder. There's a bunch of people that have a lot of years of survival training that are basically contributing to the knowledge base. And for my part, at the moment, I'm helping them out with land navigation content. So map and compass skills and stuff like that. So I just thought I would put out a little plug for that because I know they're working hard to provide some unique training on there. So if you get a chance, go check it out. It might be something that you find some value in.
Awesome.
And yeah, you were correct. It is survivalmastery.co, and this website looks pretty awesome, actually.
Okay, good. Thanks for confirming that on there. So yeah. That was something I just went out to Colorado last month for a few days, and we did a bunch of filming for land navigation content. But their goal is to kind of create this sort of one-stop area where no matter what your interest, if it's a survival related subject, eventually they want to have good quality content on there. So I just wanted to share that with everybody.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, shop your website and all of those things, how do they do that?
Yes, thank you. So my website is packratoc.com, and that's my store. And so if you want to check all that out, that's the best place to go. The two best social media platforms to get a hold of me are either going to be Packrat Bushcraft that I mentioned at the beginning, or MALLORN gear, and that's for my quiver. So if it's like specifically for those or archery content, you can go to that one. Otherwise, if it's just survival skills and me personally, reach out to Packrat Bushcraft. But either way, I check them both more than I would like. Pretty much tied to them whether I like it or not. It's kind of my life. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Always good talking to you. Always good to catch up with you. And honestly, look forward to doing it in the future sometime.
Likewise, I appreciate the opportunity. It was good to see you, man, and pleasure meeting you as well. And I wish you both luck this season. Get out there, enjoy yourself, and hope you have success.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
You too, man. Hope you get close enough.
Thank you.
For one of
Appreciate
those traditional archery shots.
Thanks a lot.
See you guys.
Bye.
Take care.
And once again, thank you so much for listening to the Publicly Challenged podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please subscribe on whatever platform it is you're listening to. Also, if you could leave a review, that would help us out. And you can check us out on Instagram or at publiclychallenged.com. And once again, thank you so much for listening to the show.